Julie, we're just past the Thanksgiving long weekend, and no, prices didn't go up. I know that some people out there believe that gas prices only go up on long weekends. If anything, they went down. And they went down because increasingly gas stations across this country don't make money selling gasoline. They make money drawing into their stores to buy their wares, their goods, their convenience. Call it what it is. Their pop, their coffee, their beef jerky. And you and I love going in there because we don't mind that we can buy a case of pop or a case of water for $2.99, but they're selling each unit in a case of 24 for $1.99. That's how they make up their money. Because right now I'm looking at a scenario right across the country where, except in maritime provinces and in smaller communities, gas stations tend not to reflect the wholesale price plus taxes. In fact, the best example I can give you is Calgary. Calgary is interesting because we had some reports this week, saying, hey, it's back down to $1 a liter. I just want to put things in perspective. When it costs gas stations $1.08 to replace the fuel they're selling for $1.03, it isn't a winning or very smart business strategy that you're prepared to lose 3 or 4% of what it costs you to purchase. And so, unless you're making money doing other things and you have a generous supplier, then you're in real trouble. Now, I noticed today, for instance, in Calgary, Costco offering for 101.9. Apart from the fact that I have to use my credit card, or I have to pay 100 or whatever amount every year for membership for Costco, the fact is they are reflecting the cost of wholesale, their taxes, and of course their 5 cent discount. That's what they betray every time they say it's $1.08 to buy your fuel, but they're selling it at $1.01. They're telling me, a guy who's been around this for a long time, that they're getting from refiners 6 cents a liter because they can move bigger volumes. Whatever the case may be, for the Costco's of this world, and you're thinking of getting a great deal, I challenge Costco and others to say, if we're going to sell gasoline at or below cost, why not do it in store? Every item that you're selling in that store, it doesn't matter whether it's peanuts or whether it's food or whatever. Other than hot dogs and maybe the chicken, maybe it's time to offer all other products you have in that store at cost and really become Costco. I'm not attacking Costco. I'm simply saying that it's important that people understand there is no such thing as a free lunch. And in Calgary, if you think the 103 to 113 is going to last forever, I got news for you. It's going to 125 next week. So don't be surprised. You heard it first right here that the gas prices are going to get restored because most gas stations need to have a 10 to 15 cent retail margin, especially after a couple of weeks of below cost selling. And so they're going to raise those retail margins to 12, 15 cents a liter on top of 108. And with the Chicago spot market going up, we're looking at 123, 125 in the Calgary markets. Ditto for Edmonton, where the difference in wholesale price between Edmonton and Calgary is simply 2.4%. Well, enough about Alberta for now. British Columbia is seeing prices now below $1.60 in Vancouver, back below, in some cases, below $1.40 in the interior, the BC interior. We're seeing Saskatchewan prices never change, $1.30 for gasoline, a buck about the same in Winnipeg. For Ontario, believe it or not, yeah, pretty much the same, $1.30, $1.31. Quebec, always about 18 to 20 cents more expensive because they have higher taxes. And yes, Quebecers love their carbon tax, their so-called fee that they have for carbon, known as a cap and trade. And of course, gas taxes tend to be a little higher in Quebec as well. Maritimes, you haven't seen much movement. I'm really surprised that in Atlantic Canada, we're seeing prices drop a little bit for diesel and for gasoline, but no, they're not letting that happen. They're clinging to their formulas, and their formulas are not necessarily giving consumers the best gift. But that's the way gasoline prices stack up across the country. And why it's important is that we come in a week where oil prices have dropped about $4 or $5 a barrel. Much of it due to the fact that OPEC has flooded the market once again, as they did in 2014, although not as dramatically. And it looks like we could be looking at oil dropping to as low as $50 a barrel, staying there for a little while until OPEC and those who are producing can really get their act together. It does mean that revenues for various producing provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, could be affected. but it also means that consumers will get a bit of a benefit. It's really too bad that we still have a second carbon tax on gasoline in British Columbia. That's 17, 18 cents a liter. In the rest of Canada, it's pushing a lot closer to 6 cents a liter because most other jurisdictions don't have that. And they certainly don't have an OBPS, an output-based pricing system that they impose on industry that makes the price of everything go up. But in all of this, we have to also be mindful of one of the other impacts, and that's the value of the Canadian dollar versus the U.S. greenback. Because it takes over 140 pennies to buy a U.S. dollar, that's adding 23 to 24 cents a liter to the price of gasoline. So when you hear the Prime Minister saying the only way you're going to get pipelines built or any more production to sell to the rest of the world that could actually strengthen the Canadian dollar and strengthen your personal purchasing power, that it has to be sequestered or it has to get 100% unanimity to get built across this country, I think it's time to say nuts to that, because you're damaging the economy. And don't take my word for it. Mr. Carney's going to have a lot of explaining to do as to why Liberals drove up the debt in this country to levels of $1.5 trillion when we see a deficit that's likely to hit or exceed $100 billion. Now, unless some, some creative financing gets bamboozle some of our hedge funds and, of course, bond rating agencies, Canada could see a downgrade as a result of it. So I think, these are the last couple of weeks before reality hits. At 10 years of grift and sunny ways and, socks, sobbing, and selfies. This is how Canadians often voted, especially in urban areas. You're going to get smacked right on the chops because of our unwillingness to follow fiscal discipline while backing the things that make Canada strong. Getting rid of net zero, getting rid of carbon taxes, getting rid of emission caps, getting rid of bans on tankers on the West Coast, and a whole layer of regulations around green policies that are hurting this country. So, yeah, while energy prices are dropping, they could be a lot lower. It's one of the reasons we are not very competitive. And Julie, for this week and for next week, get ready, because that budget November 4th is going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot for a generation that's never experienced such pain.